is the land where gods and mortals crossed paths, where love and war became one. Here, in the ancient city of Troy, legends were born. But was it only legend, or was there truth hidden beneath the ruins?
Our story begins not with warriors, but with a poet named Homer.
5 centuries after Troy's fall, Homer told the tale in the Iliad. For centuries, many believed Troy was only a myth.
A dream, spun from imagination and poetry.
But then, a discovery shook the world of history.
A German archaeologist named Heinrich Schliemann unearthed ruins in a place the ancients once called Ilios. And so began the question that endures to this day. Did a great war truly rage here more than 3,000 years ago? Or is Troy forever bound to the world of legend?
To find answers, we must go back to where the story begins.
To a poet's voice, to a nation's memory.
To a tale of kings and queens, and a woman called Helen. A woman said to be the most beautiful in the world, and a city said to be unconquerable.
Until love and vengeance lit the spark of war.
This is the story of Troy.
Our journey begins with a poet, remembered as Homer. Some say he was blind. Some say he never existed at all.
Yet the Iliad bears the mark of a single brilliant mind.
Its name comes from Ilion, the word for Troy.
And so, the story of Troy lived on, spoken by voice before it was ever written.
Generations carried the tale, like a torch, passed from one age to the next.
But what was truth, and what was poetry?
The earliest written accounts came centuries later.
Still, the power of his words shaped the soul of Greece itself. For the Iliad was more than a tale. It was a nation's memory.
Heroes forged in fire. Achilles, Hector, Odysseus.
But did these heroes ever walk the earth? Or were they only born of song and storm?
The mystery of Homer remains unsolved to this day.
But what he gave us was timeless. The Iliad, the Song of Troy.
A world where gods and mortals fought side by side.
Where love and vengeance clashed. beneath the walls of a city, and where one woman's beauty became the spark for war.
This is where myth and history collide. For centuries, Troy was thought to be nothing more than a myth. Until a man named Heinrich Schliemann unearthed the past. In the 1870s, he began to dig at Hisarlik in northwest Turkey.
What he found astonished the world.
A city built and rebuilt, layer upon layer, over thousands of years. The walls still stood, strong, massive, enduring. Could this have been the fortress sung of by Homer? Beneath the citadel stretched a vast lower town, home to thousands. Here, myth began to touch the soil of history.
These stones had seen fire, conquest, and ruin. But was this truly the Troy of legend? Artifacts of wealth and beauty lay buried for millennia.
The plains where Homer's warriors once clashed in verse.
Weapons forged in bronze, fit for heroes of song. A city of power, watching the seas and trade routes below.
Excavations continued, decade after decade. From 1893 to 1932, teams returned to dig deeper. And still today, archaeologists seek answers in its soil.
Inscriptions that spoke the name of Ilium, New Troy.
Greeks and Romans knew this place. They called it Troy.
And perhaps, so must we.
For this was no mere fortress, but a living, breathing city.
A place of power, wealth, and pride. But also a place destined for fire. A city whose name still burns in legend.
In Sparta, there lived a woman whose beauty could topple kingdoms.
Her name was Helen.
She was the wife of Menelaus, king of Sparta, a powerful ruler and warrior. Far away, in Troy, a young prince dreamed of destiny, Paris, son of Priam. It was said the gods themselves chose his fate. The goddesses quarreled over beauty, and a mortal would decide who was fairest. Paris was chosen to judge, and Aphrodite promised him love beyond measure.
That promise was Helen.
The moment they met, destiny changed forever.
Helen left Sparta and sailed with Paris to Troy.
when Menelaus awoke to find her gone. His love turned to vengeance.
He called upon the kings of Greece to make war.
Agamemnon, ruler of Mycenae, led them all.
1,000 ships, united under one cause. To cross the sea, to claim back honor and a stolen queen. The gods watched from above, some aiding, others plotting.
For this war was not merely of men, but of heaven itself.
And from the rising sun came the fleet of 1,000 sails.
The war for Troy had begun.
The Greeks had come, 1,000 ships strong.
Warriors from every kingdom of Greece joined the host. They built great walls to guard their ships. From the towers of Troy, the defenders looked down upon their fate.
For 9 long years, blood and dust ruled these plains.
But pride among men can wound deeper than any spear.
Agamemnon took what was his, and Achilles withdrew from battle.
Without their greatest warrior, the Greeks began to falter.
Then came Hector, Prince of Troy, unmatched in courage.
A man who fought not for pride, but for his people.
Troy struck back, their arrows darkening the sky.
The Greeks began to despair.
But Achilles would not rise. His rage burned colder than the night.
Day after day, the plain of Troy ran red.
At last, his friend Patroclus begged him to return to battle. He donned the armor of Achilles to save the Greeks.
The Trojans believed Achilles had returned.
But Hector, Prince of Troy, would face him head-on.
Steel met steel until the gods intervened.
Patroclus fell, struck down by Hector's hand.
When the word reached Achilles, his grief was boundless.
And his sorrow turned to fury.
The god Hephaestus forged him new armor, bright as the sun.
Achilles returned to the field, vengeance in his heart.
And with him came wrath. None could stand before him.
Until only one remained, Hector of Troy.
The gods watched as destiny prepared its final duel. Two heroes, one fate.
Across the plain of Troy, two warriors stood, one for vengeance, one for honor. Hector of Troy, prince, soldier, son, knew this was his final stand. Achilles, blazing with wrath, walked as if death itself followed. Even the gods fell silent, watching men decide the will of fate. Hector raised his weapon, steady as the sun sank behind the walls of Troy. The son of Thetis lowered his shield, the far, ready to avenge his fallen friend. They circled one another fair, two storms colliding beneath dying light.
Bronze met bronze, fury met fate.
Each blow thundered like the rage of gods.
But mortals are not made of bronze.
Hector struck once more and missed. Achilles' spear found its mark.
With his final breath, Hector
Victory brought him no joy. Blinded by grief, Achilles defiled the fallen prince. From Troy's towers, a father and wife watched in horror.
Night fell upon the plain, a night of mourning for gods and men alike.
In the stillness, vengeance gave way to sorrow.
Then came Priam, king of Troy, a father seeking his son's body.
He knelt before the man who killed his child.
I have endured what no man has endured, to kiss the hand that slew my son.
And in that moment, the warrior saw his own father's face.
Tears fell, for both had lost more than glory could return. Achilles returned Hector's body to the father, who loved him.
And as dawn broke, the city of Troy wept for its hero.
No cheers, no triumph, only grief filled the sacred halls.
For even heroes must burn and be remembered in flame.
Achilles watched the sea, his heart heavy with what vengeance had cost.
The gods had given him glory, but stolen his peace.
And so ended the wrath of Achilles, the cost of a friend, the fall of a hero. As dawn broke, King Priam looked upon a city shrouded in grief.
Within Troy's sacred halls, the prince was laid to rest.
A hero's fire rose to the heavens, carrying Troy's last light.
And by the shore, Achilles watched the sea ants, the weight of victory heavy upon him. The gods had given him glory, but taken his peace.
But the tale of Achilles did not end with Hector's fall.
The gods had marked him, not for long life, but eternal fame.
Even among immortals, envy stirred, for no mortal burned as brightly as Achilles.
And so the gods guided Paris, the prince whose arrow would end the mightiest of men.
Achilles charged once more, unstoppable, invincible, burning with glory.
But fate is a cruel archer. The arrow flew, guided by a god's unseen hand.
It struck where his mother's hand once held him, the only place untouched by immortality.
The hero fell Nivio, not by man, but by destiny itself.
Around him, his brothers in arms cried out merrily, as Greece's greatest son breathed his last.
So ended Achilles, the man who feared no mortal blade.
They burned his armor by the sea and Cond, as waves carried his name across the world. And from Troy's towers, even enemies mourned the fall of such a man.
Now the Greeks were leaderless, their fury without direction. For every hero who rose, another fell.
But within the walls of Troy, hope still burned firm, and vengeance too. Paris thanked the god whose hand had guided his arrow. But among the Greeks, cunning still remained loyed, and a new plan was taking form.
For the gods were not yet done with Troy.
A city still standing, but not for long. The plains of Troy grew silent. The Greeks were gone, or so it seemed. In their place, a gift chunga, a great horse of wood, towering as if built by gods. From the walls of Troy, the people gazed upon it fulgous, wondering, doubting, hoping. Some believed it an offering to Athena. Others whispered of danger. But one voice rose above the rest. The priest Laocoon cried out in warning.
Beware the Greeks, even when they bring gifts, he thundered. But the gods had chosen their side.
Two serpents rose from the sea and silenced the prophet forever.
The Trojans took it as a sign from the gods.
And so they broke their walls and brought their doom within.
That night, the people of Troy celebrated their victory.
But inside the hollow beast, warriors waited.
Midnight fell, and the city of Troy slept for the last time. Then Odysseus gave the signal. The Greeks descended into the sleeping city.
Across the sea, the hidden fleet returned, silent as ghosts.
The gates of Troy opened from within. And fire swept through the city like divine wrath. King Priam fled to the altar of the gods. But the gods were silent.
The old king of Troy fell where he prayed.
The streets became rivers of flame and sorrow.
Andromache, wife of Hector, wept as her world burned around them. The city of Troy, Machnasli, proud Ilion Fertar, was no more.
When morning came, only ashes spoke of glory.
The Greeks looked upon what they had won and saw ruin.
For no victor leaves such fire unchanged.
And so they sailed, bearing the ghosts of their own making. Troy's story ended, but its legend began. And beneath those stars, the memory of Troy lived forever, half truth, half dream.
From the ashes of Troy, silence rose Verne.
Yet from ruin, life always finds a way.
The waves that carried the Greeks home washed clean the blood of kings.
The gods, once might-ever men, now lingered in stone and memory.
Those who survived carried the burden of victory and the curse of remembrance.
Odysseus would wander for years, haunted by gods and ghosts alike.
And when the war was long forgotten, the stories remained.
A poet named Homer would sing them into immortality.
In words, Troy lived again, the city reborn through ink and flame. Generations turned history into legend, and legend into truth. The poets said the gods had played with men's hearts, but it was men who wrote their own fate. Centuries later, scholars sought the truth behind the song. And one day, they found it boomily, the city beneath the earth. Troy was no longer legend, but history reborn.
What was once sung by poets now glimmers beneath museum glass. And still, every child who hears the tale dreams of heroes and gods.
The winds that once carried the cries of war now whisper of peace.
1,000 years have passed, yet the story still breathes.
For every stone unearthed, 1,000 imaginations rebuild the city of dreams.
Homer's words still echo, not in temples or palaces, but in hearts.
For the War of Troy was never just about gods or kings. It was about us.
All that remains of heroes are echoes carried by the tide.
Some say their souls became stars, shining over the world they once saved and scarred.
The land remembers, evil when men forget. And thus ends the tale of Troy, where myth and memory became eternal.